Let's get some perspective on this. Niranjan Hiranandani, co-founder and MD at Hiranandani Group, is now joining us on the phone line. Mr. Hiranandani, thank you so much for taking out time for us. You just heard the finance minister about assessing the option for real estate GST rate rejig. We at ET Now are picking that the proposal is for a decent cut as far as real estate various slabs are concerned. Are you confident that GST rates need to come down for better volume pickup?
As Naredco president, I have been asking for this right from January of this year, and we have made several representations to the PMO's office, to the housing ministry, and to the various state governments, and we have been able to show to them that this is a very unfair rate which has been put on the customer, and it's not possible for them or the industry to absorb it. For affordable housing, they had brought it down from 12% to 8%. But that's not adequate enough. We have requested that the entire amount should be brought down to 6%. But now there are two proposals. One, to bring it down to 8 or 6% with an input credit tax, or to bring it to 5% on a flat rate. My view is that the policy of GST is such that input credit tax has to be adjusted in order to keep the sanctity of the GST as a system, which will bring about more transparency for people who do not buy on the basis of GST. So I think personally a tax at the rate of 6% with input credit would be better. But of course, rationalization has to take place if the industry is to take off. And this is the view of Naredco and myself personally.
Hi, Mr. Hiranandani. It's Nantara Rai from New Delhi. Thanks for joining in. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Incidentally, those two proposals, we only broke right here on ET Now with our story. My question to you is, and I've spoken to a whole host of builders, yes, they seem to be more in favor of the cut being to 8%. They believe that if it's cut to 5% with no input tax credit, it could actually end up being inflationary. A, do you concur with that view? Is that the view of the industry body Naredco? And then the second one being, if that is indeed the case, why haven't we seen property prices come down in the last 18 months when you've all enjoyed the benefits of input tax credit but not passed it on to consumers, and that too in a completely dead market?
No, but let me tell you, there is no question of not passing it on. The general overall market scenario is certainly not something which the builders can hold on. But you have to understand that what the finance minister just mentioned in the quotation that you did, that people are postponing the closure of sales to take place. They are coming to you, but they are not closing in, especially when the buildings are about 4 to 6 months away from completion. Because irrespective of the pricing of the property, there is a clear understanding from them that we don't want to pay GST, because anyway, after the occupation certificate, GST is legally not payable. Hence, the inertia from the customer's viewpoint and a belief that this is a wrong tax that they are paying under construction, and they do not need to pay it because legally they don't have to pay it. So we are very clear. But the other point to take, as what you mentioned, is we are also of the view that we would rather have an 8% with a full input credit rather than a 5% flat rate of tax, is our view. But the government is trying to come up with the 5% tax without the input credit. But we are of the view, I agree with you, that it should be 6 or 8% with input credit rather than a 5% flat.
Right. But again, my question to you is about, what happens to the volumes? Say if, this sort of a cut actually comes in and there is a good 4-5% incremental cut that goes on to various sort of customers. Do you think that that can boost the demand quite significantly?
I'm 100% sure it will, because a large number of people who are postponing buying will certainly make a difference to them, because they are now postponing the buying. Number A, that the requirement of RERA, which actually impounds 70% of the cash flows into the project in a separate account, plus this belief that the GST is going to come down, a lot of people are not investing into the real estate as a business. So obviously they will come back, and the people for closure of transactions will also take place. I do believe that the buoyancy will return into the real estate segment, which is not there to the extent to which it should be. Number two, remember, with 7.2% growth in the GDP overall, the demand for commercial real estate has picked up, but residential has not picked up proportionately. So we do believe that it should have increased proportionately. In fact, usually when GDP grows continuously at that pace, the residential housing is far more buoyant than the commercial side. But we are not seeing that happen to that extent as what we are expecting. But we hope that with these changes in the GST, it will make a difference, and the cumulative effect will cause more taxes to be collected rather than less taxes.
But, Mr. Hiranandani, this is Nantara again, and I'm only going to play devil's advocate, I think it's always in the interest of consumers if property prices come down, which it can with GST. But my question is that, for example, look at the unsold inventory we have across the country that all of you builders are grappling with at lifetime highs. For ready-to-move-in apartments, it's anyway out of the ambit of GST, provided you all have a completion certificate. But that still has not propped up sales. Do you think this is really going to impact the market, or there is something else that is missing? We keep talking about maybe the trust deficit, which RERA was supposed to address. Now there's a liquidity problem because of NBFCs, people are not getting home loans. So while this could be one measure, is this going to be enough to revive a property market which has been dead since Lehman Brothers for almost a decade?
No, I don't think, I am certainly not as pessimistic as you make it sound. It is definitely not to that extent. We are already seeing a revival in terms of real estate, and you must realize one thing, that you are seeing far more completed products which are unsold simply because people are postponing buying. So obviously people are not going to buy so much under construction as they used to. So I do not see, I do see that with the change and rationalization of GST to the extent that we are suggesting, will make a buoyancy which is going to be far more proactive. Number two, remember the number of projects coming into online as far as that is concerned is far less in terms of numbers that you are seeing, and the RERA registrations barring Maharashtra, the rest of the registration in all India is abysmally low, which means that the production and productivity of housing in the next 2 years are actually falling tremendous. 17,000 registration in Maharashtra. All India figure is less than 36,000 projects being registered, which is so abysmally low. I cannot believe also it could be so low. And it surprises and shocks me completely. So I do see that the production of housing is coming down, and that will ultimately raise the demand for the finished products which are there. But in a way, it's good for the consumer to be able to buy ready product. In the good old days, there were no ready products available. Today, it's good for the customer if the ready products are available and they have a choice for the purposes of doing it. What's wrong? I think you buy a ready car which is ready off the shelf. Why can't you buy a house ready of the builder's stock? So I don't see that as a negative, and we shouldn't even bother about it. What is really in our interest is that the overall housing should be available, and what you mentioned, Nantara, at an affordable price, which is the target of the industry. We are putting up, and barring places like Mumbai and parts of Delhi and major towns, metropolitan towns, in the other cities, you are getting apartments in the range of 4,000 and 6,000 rupees a square foot, which is an affordable price for smaller apartments. So I'm seeing a very positive trend in all India measure, but barring maybe 2 or 3 cities where we are not getting the affordable housing today, the rest of the cities, affordable housing is already come, which is very positive story.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time for us. Always good to get perspective from you. Thanks so much for joining.